My name is Lena Hartwell, and the morning my brother decided to fire me, he asked me to record the vote. He did not know that by the end of the week, I would be the only person capable of keeping his company alive. Rain crawled down the windows of the 32nd floor conference room in downtown Chicago. Beyond the glass, the river looked like a strip of dark metal between the buildings. Inside, my father, my stepmother, 6 directors, and my older brother Adrian sat around a walnut table discussing the future of Hartwell Root Systems. I occupied my usual chair near the door with my laptop open. Before we review the expansion figures, Adrian said, straightening his silver cufflinks, "There is one staffing matter." He did not look at me at first. He enjoyed making people wait. Lena's 6-month probation ends today. After reviewing her contribution, I have concluded that the board support position is unnecessary. My father shifted in his chair. "Perhaps we should discuss this privately." "Why?" my stepmother Vivian asked. "We all know Lena isn't suited to this environment." Adrian finally faced me. "You're pleasant, Lena, dependable too. But this company needs ambitious people. You take minutes, arrange calls, and correct presentation slides. We can hire an administrator for half your salary." One director lowered his eyes. Another pretended to read the agenda. "Would you like me to record that exactly?" I asked. Adrian smiled, mistaking calmness for surrender. "Please do. Accuracy is your strongest quality." I typed his words. My father, Thomas Hartwell, founded Hartwell Root Systems 24 years earlier after watching a hospital lose critical supplies because of a warehouse error. The company built software that tracked medicine and medical equipment through complex supply chains. For years, it had grown carefully. Then Adrian became chief operating officer and decided careful growth was another name for cowardice. In 18 months, he opened offices in London, Dublin, and Amsterdam. He hired 82 people before the European product had passed local compliance testing. He leased an entire floor overlooking the Thames because, as he told the board, serious companies do not operate from modest addresses. To everyone around the table, that was vision. When I asked about cash reserves, it was negativity. When I questioned whether letters of intent were being counted as signed contracts, it was inexperience. When I pointed out that the company's largest hospital client could terminate on 30 days' notice, Adrian told me to concentrate on punctuation. That morning, he clicked to a slide labeled "The Next Global Leader." "Revenue will rise 40% after the European launch," he announced. "Crown Gate Partners will close our $75 million Series C next Thursday. Once the money lands, we accelerate." I looked at the footnote beneath his graph. The projected revenue included 3 hospital networks that had agreed only to unpaid trials. "Does Crown Gate know these are pilot agreements?" I asked. Adrian's expression hardened. "We have already discussed your interruptions." The slide describes them as contracted revenue, because conversion is virtually certain. Virtually certain is not the same as contracted. Vivienne sighed. "Lena, must you challenge him in front of everyone?" Gerald Price, the oldest independent director, leaned toward the screen. "She has a point. Has outside counsel reviewed the investor deck?" Adrian clicked to the next slide. "Our advisors are comfortable. I will not let timid thinking sabotage the most important financing in our history." My father nodded slowly. "We hired Adrian to lead. Let him lead." I typed that sentence too. The board voted 5-2 to eliminate my position. My father abstained, as if refusing to choose made him innocent. Gerald and one other director opposed it. "You can finish the week," Adrian said. "Document handover, passwords, calendars. No hard feelings." "None," I replied. What Adrian could not see was the short message glowing on my phone beneath the table. Crown Gate found the revenue discrepancy. Emergency call at noon. It came from Maya Chen, managing director of Cedar Harbor Capital. Officially, Maya was my employer. In reality, she worked for me. At 12, I walked 3 blocks through the rain to a quiet restaurant, entered a private room through the back corridor, and found Maya waiting with 2 binders and a pot of coffee. "Crown Gate is preparing to withdraw," she said. "Their due diligence team contacted 2 hospital groups directly. Neither has approved a paid rollout. Adrian represented both as 3-year contracts. Is it fraud? Counsel says possibly not criminal fraud. The wording is slippery enough to argue optimism, but no reputable investor will accept it. Crown Gate's committee votes tomorrow morning. I opened the first binder. Hartwell Root's cash forecast was worse than I had expected. Payroll was due in 9 days. European office deposits were non-refundable. Adrian had promised signing bonuses, advertising commitments, and implementation costs using money that did not yet exist. How long if the round fails? I asked. 11 days before they breach the minimum cash covenant on our bridge loan. Perhaps 3 weeks before they miss payroll. 3 years earlier, Hartwell Route had needed capital to upgrade its platform. Banks considered the company too small, and my father was unwilling to surrender control to a large private equity firm. Cedar Harbor invested $20 million in preferred shares and later provided a $14 million secured bridge facility. Together, those investments made us the company's largest outside financial backer. They also gave Cedar Harbor the right to appoint a director, review material contracts, approve new senior debt, and demand a restructuring officer if Hartwell Route breached its cash covenant. No one in my family knew I owned Cedar Harbor. My mother, Sophia, had created a trust for me after divorcing my father. When she died, I was 21 and inherited just under $8 million. Everyone assumed I placed it in safe funds and lived quietly from the returns. Instead, I studied distressed businesses, healthcare, logistics, and enterprise software. I bought small positions in companies other investors ignored. Some failed. 2 grew beyond anything I had predicted. By 27, the trust's assets were worth more than $100 million. I founded Cedar Harbor to manage them professionally. Maya built the team. I made the final investment decisions. I did not hide it because I was ashamed. At first, privacy protected me from relatives who considered inheritance communal property. Later, silence became a test I should never have needed. I wanted to know whether my father valued me before he knew what I controlled. 6 months earlier, he had invited me to join Hartwell Route. Start close to the board, he had said. Observe Adrian. Learn how a real company works. I accepted a junior role because I wanted to understand the business from inside and because some foolish, hopeful part of me believed working together might repair our family. Instead, I learned exactly how invisible a person could become while sitting in the same room. Maya pushed the second binder toward me. If Crown Gate leaves, Adrian will ask us for another 12 to 15 million. If we refuse, management must cut immediately. If we declare a covenant default, we could force a sale of the company's assets. I don't want a liquidation. Neither do I. 143 employees would be caught in it, but giving Adrian more unrestricted money would be reckless. I closed the binder. Prepare 2 options. First, a rescue package with conditions. Second, enforcement if the board refuses. What conditions? Adrian removed from operational control. Independent investigation. European expansion suspended. Executive bonuses frozen. A payroll reserve protected before any creditor payment. Professional turnaround officer appointed by Cedar Harbor. Maya studied me. And your father? He can remain chairman if the independent directors approve. I am protecting the company, not arranging a family execution. They fired you this morning, didn't they? I looked up. You still have access to the company calendar, she said. The termination meeting appeared. My position was eliminated, and you are still willing to save them. I am willing to save the employees and the sound part of the business. That is different from saving Adrian from consequences. The next evening, Vivian hosted a reception at the Langham to celebrate the financing that had not closed. 200 guests drank champagne beneath chandeliers while a string quartet played near the windows. A gold sign welcomed them to Hartwell Moot. The world moves with US. I almost did not attend. Then Adrian emailed and instructed me to manage the guest list as part of my handover, so I wore a dark green dress, checked names at the entrance, and watched my family celebrate money they did not have. At 9, Adrian stepped onto the stage. My father built a respected American company, he told the room. But respect is not enough. Leadership means seeing the future before cautious people approve of it. Several guests applauded. Next week, our financing will make Hartwell Route a global force. We are succeeding because we have placed the right people in the right positions and had the courage to make changes where people did not fit. His eyes found mine. Vivian's friends knew what he meant. One of them gave me a sympathetic smile. A journalist near the stage raised her hand. Is your sister involved in leadership? Adrian laughed softly. Lena tried the corporate world. She has many lovely qualities, but strategy is not among them. We all serve best when we understand our limits. My father stood beside the stage and said nothing. At that moment, my phone vibrated. Crown Gate vote complete. They are out. Formal notice at 8 a.m. I left the ballroom without waiting for the toast. At 8:17 the next morning, Adrian called me. Emergency board meeting. 9 o'clock, bring your laptop. I thought my position had been eliminated. You finished today. Don't be difficult. When I entered the conference room, the celebration had vanished. Adrian's tie was crooked. Vivienne wore no makeup. My father stood at the window with one hand pressed against the glass. Crown Gate withdrew, Gerald told me. Why is she here? Vivienne whispered. Because we need a record, Adrian snapped. Sit down, Lena. I took my usual chair. The chief financial officer presented the facts. Without Crown Gate's $75 million, the company would breach Cedar Harbor's cash covenant in 11 days. The bank would not increase its credit line. Payroll and essential suppliers could be covered once but not twice. The European contracts would consume the remaining cash. Call Cedar Harbor, my father said. They have supported us before. I have called Maya Chen 6 times, Adrian replied. She won't discuss funding until her investment committee meets, then arrange the meeting. I am trying. My phone rang on the table. The screen displayed Maya Chen. Everyone saw it. Adrian frowned. Why is Cedar Harbor calling you? I imagine she is ready for the meeting. I answered and put the call on speaker. Good morning, Lena, Maya said. The documents are complete. Should I send them? Please. An email reached every director seconds later. Gerald opened the attachment first. Proposed emergency financing, he read. $15 million. My father exhaled. Vivienne covered her mouth. Adrian grabbed the printed copy as the company secretary carried it around. Relief lasted only until he reached the conditions. Removal of the chief operating officer? His voice cracked. Independent forensic review? Suspension of Europe? Who does Cedar Harbor think it is? Your largest outside investor and secured lender, I said. He turned toward me. How did you get this before I did? The room went still. There are moments when truth arrives loudly, with shouting and slammed doors. This truth arrived in the faint hum of the ventilation system and the soft tapping of rain against glass. I closed my laptop. Cedar Harbor's investment committee has 1 voting member, I said. Adrian stared as if he had misunderstood the language. My father slowly sat down. What does that mean? It means I am Cedar founder and beneficial owner. Maya is its managing director. The $20 million preferred investment came from my fund. So did the $14 million bridge loan. Vivienne shook her head. That is impossible. The ownership records are included in the disclosure package. Gerald turned pages, then looked at me with widening eyes. You control the trust behind the fund. Yes. You have controlled Hartwell Root's largest outside position for 3 years? Yes. Adrian laughed once, too sharply. You order sandwiches. On Tuesdays, I said. On Wednesdays, I chair Cedar Harbor's investment committee. No one laughed. My father's face had lost its color. Why didn't you tell me? You never asked what I was building. You asked whether I could organize a calendar. But the money, was it your mother's? It began with what she left me. I invested it. Cedar Harbor now manages $118 million of my assets and another $46 million for outside partners. Vivienne stared at me as if a wall had opened. Only Adrian still looked angry rather than stunned. So this is revenge, he said. You arranged for Crown Gate to leave because I fired you. Crown Gate left because you described unpaid pilots as contracted revenue. Their analysts discovered it without my help, and now you are using the crisis to steal my position. I don't want your position. I slid the rescue proposal toward him. I want a qualified operator to have it. You committed more than $26 million before financing closed. You ignored compliance delays. You presented uncertain revenue as fact. Yesterday, while the company was dazed from a cash emergency, you stood beneath a gold sign and congratulated yourself. His fist struck the table. I grew this company. You grew its expenses. The core American business remains profitable. Europe is swallowing it. My father looked at the numbers again. If we accept these terms, what happens? Cedar Harbor places $15 million in a controlled rescue facility. $4 million goes immediately into a protected payroll account. The company freezes European spending, closes 2 overseas offices, and offers orderly severance instead of waiting until there is nothing left. An independent officer takes operational control. The investigation determines whether the investor materials require legal disclosure. And if we refuse, Gerald asked, Cedar Harbor will not advance more capital. When the cash covenant is breached, it can enforce its rights as secured lender. I would prefer an orderly sale, but bankruptcy may become unavoidable. Vivienne leaned forward. You would bankrupt your own family? No. Adrian brought the company to the edge. I am offering a bridge away from it, with a knife at our backs, with conditions that any responsible lender would require. My father rubbed both hands over his face. Lena, if this was your fund, why did you let it go so far? That question hurt more than Adrian's insults. I did warn you, I said. I questioned the cash reserves in March. Adrian called me frightened. I questioned the pilot contracts in April. Vivian said I was jealous. I asked about investor protections last month. You told me to let Adrian lead. I opened my laptop and turned it toward him. Every warning was preserved in the minutes Adrian had ordered me to take. You heard me, I said. You simply did not believe a junior employee could understand something your son had missed. My father read in silence. Gerald broke it. She is right. The record is clear. Adrian pushed back from the table. You cannot remove me from my own company. It is not yours, my father said. Adrian froze. For the first time that morning, my father sounded like the man who had once built something through patience instead of applause. I founded it, he continued, but I allowed you to treat responsibility like entitlement. I also allowed this family to treat Lena as if her value depended on the job we gave her. Vivienne whispered his name, but he raised a hand. Yesterday, I heard you humiliate my daughter in front of 200 people. I remained silent because confronting you would have embarrassed me. Today I understand that my silence was a choice. He turned to me. I am sorry, not because you control the money, because you should never have needed money for me to defend you. I believed he meant it. That did not erase 6 months, but it mattered. The board asked Adrian to leave while it discussed the proposal. He refused until building security arrived. At the door, he looked back at me. You planned this. No, I said. I prepared for it. There is a difference. After 4 hours, the board accepted Cedar Harbor's rescue package by a vote of 6-1. Vivian held no board vote, though she had spent years behaving as if she owned one. My father voted in favor. Gerald was appointed interim chairman of the restructuring committee. I did not take a board seat. Instead, I nominated Maya. The next weeks were painful. The London and Amsterdam offices closed. 31 employees lost their positions, but the protected reserve paid their wages and severance. The company retained its core Chicago workforce. An independent review corrected the investor statements before regulators became involved. Adrian resigned rather than cooperate with the turnaround officer. He told friends I had stolen his future. Perhaps that story was easier than admitting he had risked everyone else's future to protect his image. Vivian stopped calling after she realized I would not return her messages. My father did keep calling, but his messages changed. He no longer asked for money or advice. He asked whether I would meet him for coffee. I waited 3 months before saying yes. We met at a small cafe near the first warehouse where Hartwell Rout had operated. He arrived early and carried a faded folder. Inside were drawings I had made at 12, clumsy diagrams for tracking medicine from factories to hospital shelves. Your mother saved these, he said. I found them after the meeting. I remembered sitting at the kitchen table while he talked about lost shipments. I had offered ideas because I wanted to help him. Somewhere along the way, he had decided Adrian was the heir and I was the child who needed looking after. I saw what I expected to see, he said. Every time Adrian spoke confidently, I called it leadership. Every time you spoke carefully, I called it uncertainty. Confidence is easier to notice, and much more expensive, apparently. I smiled despite myself. He did not ask me to forgive him. That helped more than an emotional speech would have. Forgiveness, like trust, cannot be demanded during a crisis and counted as another asset. 1 year later, Hartwell Rout was smaller but profitable. It served hospitals across the United States and Canada, and its cash reserve could cover 9 months of operations. The company rehired 12 people who had been laid off. Gerald became chairman, Maya remained on the board, and a former hospital logistics executive became chief executive. My father retired from daily management. We had dinner twice a month. Our relationship was not magically repaired, but it was honest. Adrian eventually joined a consulting company in Dallas. For the first time, he answered to leaders who did not share his surname. I heard he became quieter. I hoped that meant he was learning, though his growth was no longer my responsibility. As for me, I never returned to the chair beside the conference room door. Cedar Harbor moved into a modest office overlooking the Chicago River. On my wall, I framed one page from my final meeting minutes. It contained a sentence Adrian had spoken just before firing me. Accuracy is your strongest quality. He had intended it as an insult. I kept it because it was true. Accuracy had shown me the difference between ambition and recklessness, between loyalty and blind obedience, between a family apology and a request for rescue. It taught me that the most important facts in a room are often ignored when they come from the person with the smallest title. People sometimes tell this story as if its lesson is that no one should underestimate a quiet woman because she may secretly be rich or powerful. That is not the lesson. A receptionist deserves respect even if she owns nothing. An assistant's warning deserves consideration if the facts support it. A daughter should not have to reveal a fortune before her father recognizes her dignity. Money exposed my family's mistake, but money was never what made their treatment wrong. The real lesson is simpler. Treat people according to their character, not their title. Listen before pride makes the truth too expensive to hear. And never confuse someone's silence with an absence of strength. Some people are quiet because they have nothing to say. Others are listening, learning, and keeping very accurate minutes.